In my last video, we looked at 10 albums that sound exactly like the look of their covers, and since you all came up with so many great picks, I thought, why not make a follow-up? For those new to the channel, just to clarify, by sounding like the look of the cover, I mean album covers that are a perfect visual representation of the music, sharing the exact same mood, feel and texture. My Bloody Valentine's Loveless and Radiohead's Kid A being two prime examples. In this video, we'll look at your suggestions, and I'll be throwing in a couple of personal favorites as well. Be sure to write your best picks in the comments. This video is in collaboration with Motion Covers. Go check out his amazing work. Links are in the description. Number 10. Echo and the Bunnymen, Ocean Rain.
Blue moon, I saw you so soon.
Now, there are many covers from the post-punk and new wave scene that perfectly capture the moodiness of the music. From Joy Division to Bauhaus and The Cure, and I could go on. But to me, no cover does it better than Ocean Rain. Instead of falling back on romantic or minimal tropes, Echo and the Bunnymen staged an ambitious photo shoot inside Carnglaze Caverns in Cornwall.
Because the songs on the album, we wanted water and a boat, so Brian came up with the idea of doing the cave in Cornwall, which has both a lake and it has the cave atmosphere.
Attention to detail is important. One detail which proved stubborn to remove was a length of chain. Certainly this chain gang couldn't shift it. For a while things didn't seem to be going so well. But on the principle that if you can't lose it, use it, Griffin was back in business, with a boat and some bunnymen.
The symbolic cover is jam-packed with references that mirror the theme of the album. For example, the boat and the water represent the album's multiple references to the sea, and the blue hue mimics the moonlight from the single The Killing Moon. And speaking of The Killing Moon, which is about our mortality, could it be that the Bunnymen themselves are actually in the underworld? Maybe embarking on the boat ride across the river Styx? I mean, they're literally under the surface of the earth, so to me it makes perfect sense. Anyway, author Chris Adams described the album cover as a perfect visual representation of arguably the Bunnymen's finest album. Number 9. Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath. While on the topic of the underworld, this segues nicely into Black Sabbath, which depicts a shadowy figure standing in an eerie, otherworldly landscape. No doubt one of music's spookiest album covers. The funny thing about this cover is that up until just a few years ago, almost nothing was known about it. We didn't know who the woman or the photographer was, and on the liner notes it just said album design and photography by Keith. This mystery gave rise to many legends, the most famous one being that there really was no woman at the shoot. She only appeared later when developing the film. I mean, of course in this day and age we're totally desensitized, but can you imagine being a kid back in 1970 and first hearing this record?
Did the movie scare you at all? Yes, ma'am, it did.
The band's name hinted at the occult. On the inner sleeve there was an inverted cross containing a poem that talked about a young girl waiting by the lake, and it seems that Ozzy sings about her in the title track and Evil Woman. What the hell did all this mean? Is the band in cahoots with this mysterious woman? Is she a witch that'll curse you through the music? This album was something totally unheard of, both in terms of music and packaging, and it surely must have creeped a lot of poor kids out. But in any case, it's a prime example of when music and art go hand in hand. Number 8. Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska. So here we have an album that's probably gained a lot of new fans thanks to the movie Deliver Me From Nowhere. And that's great, because Nebraska really is a masterpiece.
If I had to pick one album out and say, this is going to represent you 50 years from now, I'd pick Nebraska.
Bruce Springsteen recorded most of Nebraska in a single day on a tape deck in his bedroom.
This is where the magic happened.
This is the room where it happened, that's right. I had a little chair here Mike was over there with this tape player.
It was a stark departure, both in texture and mood, from the more high-energy, bombastic sound that people had come to know him for. This was also evident in the album's artwork. While his earlier records featured the boss himself on the cover, now we just had a bleak and grim black and white photo of a landscape taken through the windshield of a car. Springsteen explained that, "I liked the photograph and what was done with it. Just a stark red and black and white layout, and the big letters. It was all just very bloody in its own way." Note his use of the word bloody, which surely hints at the major theme of the record, the horrific crimes of Charles Starkweather, who took off from Lincoln, Nebraska in January 1958 on a road trip of spree killings, leaving 10 people dead. So, is the album cover maybe meant to be the killer's point of view? I guess that's up to us to decide. Anyway, many critics have noted that the artwork matches the album's tone and mood perfectly. Number 7. Godspeed Black Emperor, Yankee UXO. While Godspeed's first album might be an even better fit, I talked in depth about that album in another video, so I've instead chosen their third album, 2002's Yankee UXO. Recorded in the wake of September 11, Yankee UXO is in my opinion Godspeed's angriest, most explosive album to date, and it perfectly captures the geopolitical turmoil that followed the attacks. Regarding the cover, Godspeed, who's very explicitly anti-war by the way, dug out some old stock footage from the Vietnam War. The haunting image both echoes the anger and frustration displayed in the music, while at the same time expressing angst from the fact that at any time, in this tense climate, the bombs might very well rain down upon us. Surely, nobody does the feeling of impending doom quite like Godspeed. Number 6. Tame Impala, Inner Speaker. With Tame Impala conquering the world once again with Deadbeat, I can't help to think that this new album seems a bit lacking, both in terms of music and artwork. Each record Kevin Parker has put out has had accompanying art that was as ambitious and psychedelic as the music, and while many probably prefer Currents, my personal favorite has to be Inner Speaker. The cover of Inner Speaker features an image of the Great Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, which has been altered using the Drost effect, making it appear as it continues into itself. To me, it complements the psychedelic nature of the music perfectly, no pun intended. Inner Speaker is clearly a modern homage to iconic psychedelic artists of the 60s, like Beatles, Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd, and it's fitting then that the cover should carry the same trippy aesthetics. In fact, speaking of Pink Floyd, the same Drost effect was actually used on the cover of Amagama. Number 5. Burial, Untrue. Imagine all those times, out dancing all night, then heading home on the subway, twisted, while everyone else is going to work. Well, Burial's music pretty much sounds like that. It's the beats that are pounding in our head when we're lying in bed, long after the party is over, twisting and turning, unable to sleep. Or, as Burial himself put it, the tracks are more influenced by when you come back from being out somewhere, in a minicab or a night bus, or walking home across London late at night, and you still got the music kind of echoing in you. Untrue really feels like the equivalent of a come down or an afterglow of a rave, and it's fitting that as the depression and lack of serotonin kicks in, that the cover is a grim picture of a hooded man sheltering himself from either the rain or all the gloomy feelings that are about to come. Although we could probably apply heaps more symbolism, the truth behind the cover is simple. Burial explained, "I've been drawing that same one since I was little, just some moody kid with a cup of tea, sitting at a 24-hour stand in the rain, in the middle of the night when you're coming back from somewhere." Number 4. Captain Beefheart, Trout Mask Replica.
My smile is stuck. I cannot go back to your frown land.
Seriously, if you were to pick up Trout Mask Replica, look at the cover and listen to it, without knowing its reputation, you'd probably think it was some kind of sick joke.
It was a double record set, it cost $7, it was too much, but Frank Zappa's name was on it, so I bought it. I took it home, I put it on. It's the worst dreck I'd ever heard in my life. I said, they're not even trying!
Now here she come walking, looking like a zoo.
The only way I can describe this album is to compare it to a child's drawing. When kids paint something, they don't care if it's good or not, or how it's going to be received. They just draw the damn thing for their own creativity's sake. And on Trout Mask Replica, Captain Beefheart clearly didn't care about making what's considered conventionally good music, but what he did care about was pushing himself creatively.
And then I thought, but Frank Zappa produced it. Maybe I better get it another play. So I played it again, and I thought, it sounds horrible, but they mean it to sound this way.
As for the artwork, it too is as absurd as a child's drawing, and it's the perfect visual companion. The striking contrast between the red and the green tells us instantly that this is going to be a bold and colorful listening experience. The cover is goofy, strange, bizarre, and provocative, and it's literally in your damn face, just like the music. It's one of the most iconic album covers of all time, and I honestly doubt that the record would have reached the same cult status without it.
In the 5th or 6th time, I loved it. In the 7th or 8th time, I thought it was the greatest album ever made, and I still do.
Number 3. Sweet Trip, Velocity Design Comfort. Velocity Design Comfort has been described as a cross between Aphex Twin and My Bloody Valentine, with its lush vocals and guitars fused with glitchy, all-over-the-place beats, and the cover totally evokes that sound. We have a rainbow and a blue sky juxtaposed against a computerized grid and a futuristic housing complex. It's a perfect visual representation of the album's split personality, blissfully ethereal and electronically crazy. Apparently the album was influenced by advertising and general consumerism, and thanks to the cover's vivid color palette, it actually feels like the album itself is meant to be an ad. I also chuckled at a YouTube comment that likened the sound of the record to Windows XP, which is spot on because the album's whole aesthetics just screams early 2000s technology. Clunky computers, dial-up modems, ink cartridges, MS Paint, and etc. Number 2. Björk, Vespertine.
And talk about this outfit. This is not your swan song tonight. This is a rather unusual creation.
Yeah, my friend made it.
It's rather beautiful. Good luck tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
In early 2001, Björk made all the headlines wearing a controversial swan dress at the Academy Awards. The same dress would also feature on the cover of her album Vespertine later that year. If Björk is known for anything, it's for pushing boundaries, and her album covers have always reflected that, being as striking and experimental as the music itself. However, while most of her covers are extravagant and colorful, the cover of Vespertine is much more delicate. The black and white composition of Björk in an intimate and vulnerable position summed up the shift in tone perfectly from her previous record, Homogenic. Vespertine was a more quiet, introspective journey, with Björk's vocals at times so up close that it feels like she's whispering her secrets right in your ear. It's been called her introvert album, made for solitary winter days, which again ties back to the iconic swan dress. Björk explained, "I don't really know why I'm obsessed with swans, but everything about my new album is about winter, and they're a white, sort of winter bird. Obviously very romantic, being monogamous. Right now, swans seem to sort of stand for a lot of things." Before we continue, let's see some honorable mentions. Oh, and if you're enjoying the video and want to support me, please do subscribe. Number 1. Cocteau Twins, Heaven or Las Vegas. By a long shot, the album that got the most love was Heaven or Las Vegas, and I guess we can pretty much sum up this album with one word: ethereal. Heaven or Las Vegas has been described as beautiful, flowing and fragile, like a rainbow on the surface of a bubble. To capture the music's dreamlike quality, the band hired designer Paul West, who together with photographer Andy Rumble spent several days and nights in a makeshift studio experimenting with long exposures of Christmas lights. In the end, they settled on a shot of some mystical, swirling lights that channeled a ghost, a wandering spirit, or perhaps even an alien entity. Fitting, as the music on the record really is otherworldly, with Liz Fraser's stunning vocals even being described as an angel or an alien who, after floating to Earth, has finally begun to speak the language. So that's a wrap, guys. Do you agree with the list? Disagree? Are there any albums I missed? Make sure to let me know your best picks in the comments. And once again, if you're enjoying the content and want to support me, the best way to do that is to hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks a lot and take care.